Okay, chatting shit, episode 1 of the Marsh Cup. Less than 24 hours old, like real fresh thoughts here. So excited to see what people have brought to the table. Joined by Dan, Liam, and Stuart making his debut on chatting shit. How is everyone?
Good, Matt. Good. Thanks for having us again.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to it. This meta is really exciting, I think. As I say, less than 24 hours old, but I don't know about you three, but I ain't got a bloody clue where to start with this.
It's yeah. I've done a little bit of research into it, and it's not what I expected at first. I expected it to be super ghost heavy, and now I'm like looking through it, thinking, oh, maybe it's not ghost heavy. Maybe it's a bit different. So, yeah.
Fair. Well, good way to start then, because Stuart's up first, straight in at the deep end. What are you telling us about?
Well, my pick for Marsh Cup is Sableye, and sticking with the Halloween theme, it's a ghost type. Thought I'd give it a bit of love. I think this is actually going to be the best cup yet for Sableye. I don't know if that's a big statement or not, but it's looking really strong, I think. So
statement that.
That is a big statement.
I had a look at it, and I think it can just work in all positions. It can work as a lead, can work as a switch, can work in the back. I think it's got good, safe matchups with everything. Its only weakness is fairy, and there's not too many fairies floating about. I think there's Whimsicott, Azumarill off the top of my head. So I think it's going to be very strong. Yeah. And I think best moves for it look like Shadow Claw obviously is the fast move with Foul Play, and this is the choice of Return or Power Gem. So if anybody's got a Return Sableye, they could be looking good here. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that you say it's a choice. It's not a choice for me yet, unfortunately.
Have you not got a Return Sableye?
Not a very good one, no. But you know, I've never actually used Sableye in a Silph Cup.
Really?
Really, yeah. I think what you've just described as a positive is something I've actually always seen as a negative, and I think here might be the first time I don't see that. And I think it does everything quite well, but I've never yet found something that it does really well.
Yeah. And
that's why I've never used it. But I think you've cracked it here. I think it does everything. It looks like it does everything really well here.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really tough to take down. The best counter for it, as I said, is Whimsicott with Charm. But how many Whimsicott are you going to see realistically? It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Because the big thing with Marsh Cup is there's just so many options. I don't think we've had a Silph Cup yet with as many options as this. If you go down PvP, there's so many good ones available. I think there's like 80 all that could potentially be viable. So I think we're going to have a huge range of teams. So it's very much being like, what is the threat to your mons? But yeah, so Sableye is going to be really strong. I think another thing that could stop it would be mons which get to charge moves really fast. And things like your Swamperts, your Venusaurs, which get to very heavy charge moves pretty quickly. That's going to be tough for it to deal with. But on the whole, I think you just should stand up to everything really well.
So you're saying to go with a purified one, not a shadow one, because obviously now with that Silph have opened up the world to shadows, we're all very excited about playing with our shadows as well. Which I've got a Shadow Sableye, so I was like, I've not pulled the trigger on it and powered it up, but I do have.
I think Sableye's one of those mons that you kind of want more as a tanky mon because you want the bulk on it. So I think the sort of purified or regular Sableye will be better than Shadow, but it's certainly an interesting choice though.
So do you think the bulk's going to be? Because I know I look at Sableye sort of being strong on its attack, and again looking back at it, what I said earlier about all the ghosts being around and flying around, you're going to want it to hit hard with those, Shadow Claws and stuff like that. Yeah. So I was just curious to your thoughts on that and whether
I think
you're sticking with the purified Return bad boy, preferably lucky.
Power Gem could work nicely as well. Yeah,
I think I tend to agree. I think the the return is is such a good option on there, because Power Gem's just generally it's quite a bad move, isn't it? And you mentioned Azumarill and Whimsicott. I also think Alolan Muck might be knocking around a fair bit. Alolan Muck doesn't want to take a return really. Well, actually, what does want to take a return is probably most of the point. So, Liam, you haven't used Sableye yet in Silph because you've not been playing particularly long, and I don't think it's been eligible while you've been playing. Is that right?
It's eligible in Catacomb on it.
Oh yeah, of course it was. Yeah.
Whenever I was tempted, there was always a nice Umbreon about, so it was never really one that I wanted to put that much into, and I've still not really got one that I'd want to power up the full way yet. So I'd have to see how a couple of practices go and see if anyone goes above and beyond with it before I take the plunge and put that much dust into it. I know it's going to be there for plenty in the future, but it's always one that I'm just waiting for that one special one that I want to best buddy and I want to take the plunge with it.
I'm going to spend the rest of your life with it. That's
it's going to be a one and only, the one I pick.
Yeah.
It is expensive, Sableye, but I think it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
so strong.
Yeah, I think the fact that it works in every position. There's comparisons to be made to sort of Vigoroth in Sunrise Cup, I think, in a weird sort of way. And are you concerned at all that, certainly in my experience playing Sunrise Cup, whenever I've seen Vigoroth on the opponent's team, I always absolutely expect to see it in the 3. People love spamming Vigoroth in the 3. I expect people to love spamming Sableye in the 3 in the Marsh Cup. Do you think that the predictability of it could potentially be an issue?
Potentially, but I think Sableye is going to be harder to counter directly than Vigoroth in Sunrise. So I agree, but I think it's going to be, you can't prepare for it that easily unless basically you have a fairy type or something that gets to charge moves fast. So I think it's going to be, it's not a set counter such. Whereas in Sunrise, Vigoroth, you can just switch in a Drifblim and then it's completely walled. I don't think you can really do that with Sableye here. So that's my thought on that.
Yeah. No, very, very good point, actually. Yeah, very good point. I know Liam won a couple of games, won a tournament, in fact, by doing that, if I remember rightly.
I think every single round of that tournament, I caught a fig into a Drifblim. It was lovely.
Very satisfying, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Dirty.
But horrible if he is the other person.
You're just doing nothing to it, and you're just so comfortable because you fast race do nothing, but you're just sitting there like, this is so fun.
Yeah.
That's quite evil, that.
I get evil during battles, don't worry. But
really? You, Liam, get evil during battles? I'd have never have guessed that, mate. Honestly.
Don't tell anyone, not like this is going on YouTube.
Oh dear. Have you thought about, I mean, this might sound like a daft question, but given now how varied its usage can be, but anything in particular that you think might benefit from having Sableye with it, or?
I think he could slot into most teams really, because like I say, it's so flexible. So I think nothing in particular. I think it's just very flexible, like I said.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. Any final thoughts on Sableye, anyone?
I don't know if it's going to be as prevalent as you think. I know it's very, very highly rated on PvP Poke, but as we did point out before, it's a heavy investment. Now, not everyone does have one. Certainly, not everyone has a purified one because it's a newer thing, and people want it lucky because obviously it maxes out below 1500. So, and then you want a best buddy it. So there's going to be people out there who are going to go, I haven't got a return one. I haven't got a best buddy one. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to use something alternative that maybe has a bit more rounded coverage. I mean, you've got the likes of Dustlocks in there, which you can stick on the Dark moves with. As you said, you've got a Alolan Muck again, which you can have Snarl with. So you've got that move variance there as well. I just think maybe, even though it's so highly rated, I think there's going to be people who are going to plan around that. Certainly when I've only done the one practice, well, I did a Battle of 3 today, and I didn't use it.
No.
And it's not particularly, as far as the ghost kind of realm is, it's not the one I'm looking at, certainly at the moment.
Sure.
I'm not saying it's a bad decision. I may change my mind. I mean, it's very, it's less than 24 hours old, but...
Yeah. Well, I think there's just so many options in this cup that I don't think you're going to see that many mons which are really prevalent, with maybe the possible exception of Galvantula, which you'll see a lot of. I think people will just choose different mons basically. So I think there's like so many options. You can choose Sableye, or I think you can choose you want Muck, Alola Muck if you want another dark, or I know Frostlass is a pretty good ghost around. Marowak's going to be strong as ever. So yeah, it's loads of options, but I still think Sableye is going to be really strong.
Yeah, I think it depends what kind of player you are as well. Like if you're one of those players that likes just has 1 or 2 lines of 3 that you play a lot and you get really used to and really comfortable with, maybe Sableye suits that kind of player more.
Yeah.
Whereas anyone who's seen any of my battle videos knows that I like making silly decisions and trying to call things needlessly. And so perhaps Sableye wouldn't quite fit into my playstyle quite as well. But yeah, I feel like I'll definitely be giving Sableye a go this month, even if in practice, if nothing else. I think yeah, there are a lot of options, and so we'll probably not end up seeing anything up with as high a usage as we're seeing this month with things like Figure Off, etc. But I do expect Sableye to be up there with whatever else is there. Interesting you mentioned Galvantula, because that's one I'm not sold on, to be completely honest. But I'm sure I'll talk about that another day. Yeah. Cool. Well, Dan, do you want to tell us about your pick? And I know this will make Liam very happy.
So my pick is number 87 on the Pokédex.
Got to get that in there.
Got to get it in there, and it's everyone's second favourite seal as far as Silph's concerned. I've gone with Dewgong. And just on a note, Dewgong beats Sableye, beats Shadow Sableye, and beats normal Sableye in every scenario. Granted, Dewgong loses to pretty much everything else. But when I was doing my experiments with this, and as I said, I've played very limited, and I was playing against Jamie Gunn, who decided he was going to throw in all ghost teams against me, I absolutely nailed him with my Dewgong, because there isn't a ghost in this cup that can stand up to it. Now, granted, if you come across against the Ferroseed or something like that, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. But I see this cup, because as you've just pointed out, Stu, that there's so much variance and there's so many mons you can choose from. I think people are going to use the whole 6. I think people are going to try and fill out as much as they can, and they're going to get that snowflake badge from Silph, because they're going to use a mon of every different type, and it's going to be one of them cups where people are really going to expand what they're going to use, and they won't be just lines of 3. With Sunrise, Matt pointed it out that you could almost get away with just using Mantine, G-Fisk and Vigoroth in all your matches and actually not do that bad. You could, get over 50-50. I don't think this is going to be the case with this one. I think it's just going to be so wide open. So even though Dewgong loses to a lot of stuff, it beats a lot of stuff. It beats your Azus, it beats Pelipper, beats all your ghosts in every scenario, beats things like Shadow Cloister as well, beats Amok, it beats Whimsicott, it beats Golbat. These are going to be mons that people enjoy using. I love my Amok. It's probably one of my favourite Pokemon to use, just because it's so fun and and it looks cool. Let's face it, everyone loves a bit of tie-dye. But yeah, Dewgong actually beats all these, and because you've got that buff inside it as well, if you can go into the next battle having an Icy Wind ready to hit someone with, I'm very fortunate. I've got a rank 11 double legacy one, and it was fun using, to be honest. And I think certainly as it stands at the moment, I definitely will be experimenting with it more. I don't know if it'll make my final team, because I like Frostlass. that's probably one of my favourite Pokemon. So, but certainly at this early stage, I'm definitely playing with Dewgong.
Fair. What do you reckon, Stuart? Liam, what do you reckon? Well, let's go to Liam first, because I know Liam's got strong feelings about Dewgong.
I love Dewgong. I really do. I pick up on your point about that you using all 6 of your Pokemon, because I do think people are going to make teams, and I think there's always going to be 1 or 2 Pokemon you're going to just leave yourself so exposed to, because I think of the coverage of this cup, and because, like you say, Dewgong is a Pokemon that does lose to quite a lot. I think some people might disregard it in regards to building teams with double ghost, double this, double that. And I think you could catch a few people out by even if you just bring it 1 game, because Icy Wind debuffs are always going to be good. Certainly when you can bring in some big hitter or some big hits in this cup. So I like it. I do like it.
You like a shiny seal then?
Well, what do you reckon, Stuart?
Well, I don't have a legacy Dewgong, so my experience is a bit limited with it. But I kind of see it. One negative of it is it's very much a one-trick pony. It's very much it stands Ice Move and Icy Wind. So if you're in a bad matchup with it, your opponent could potentially farm up and get a lot of energy on it, and then that could come into play later in the battle. So yeah, I think it's going to be strong, but it's quite predictable, is all I'm going to say. Yeah.
I think when you say farm up the energy, I think I don't know if it's a benefit or a curse with Dewgong is the things it loses to, it absolutely gets floored by very, very quickly. You go in there with like a Shadow Victory Bell and you get it in seconds. Yeah. You're not even standing there for seconds. Excalibur, it literally just knocks you down before it even gets to a charge move. It's beating you. And I think because of its flimsy nature in that sort of aspect, I don't know if people will be able to farm up the energy, but I do get what you mean. It is, you put it out there and it gets the wrong matchup, it's dead.
But let's be fair. It's a one-trick pony, but it does that trick very, very well. Like, I remember one of the gym tournaments we were doing over summer. I think it was the one where you could pick one of 2 sides. And
Gym Effect.
The Gym Effect, that's the one. And I was looking at it, and it beats Hypno and Wigglytuff in 2s. Like, it's beating Confusion users and Charmers in 2s without resisting Confusion and Charm and without a super effective fast move. And that's just, I think that says more about its bulk than any numbers probably could.
The Icy Winds do add up as well.
Yeah. Yes, that's true, yeah. While you were reeling off the things it beat, Dan, there was one that stood out to me in particular, and that was Pelipper, actually. Because I was thinking earlier, let's just disregard Galvantula for a second, because if we're thinking that that's going to be really popular, let's take that out of the equation. What else beats Pelipper? Like, well, very little actually. It comes to mind, like, because it's a water type, yeah, but it's doing flying type damage. So your grass types are going to struggle, with the exception of Cradily perhaps and Ferrothorn, I guess.
Yeah.
But what I like about the idea of Dewgong is that it's a different way of countering the Pelipper that isn't weak to fire. And Stuart touched on it earlier. Alolan Marowak, when it's around, is always popular. And yeah, you're primarily doing ice type damage with Dewgong, so that's a bit of an issue. But you could take on a Water Pulse or an Aqua Jet if you were feeling really fruity, and fight back against that Marowak. And it's one of my things about when I'm building teams is if I'm only having 2 counters to something, which Pelipper, I don't know whether it's going to be great, but it's an awkward mon because of the moves and its spaminess and its speed. And quite frankly, its power. It hits harder than
it's one of the few flyers, Pelipper, as well. There isn't many flyers in this.
Yeah, and so it's something that I won't be building my team around. Like when I'm picking my 6, I'll not have Pelipper nagging away at the back of my head. But if I only have 2 counters to Pelipper, I want them to have different coverage. And if one of them's Galvantula, then I think something like Dewgong or Cloyster or Lapras or something like that makes a really good option. And actually, as well as covering the AWAC weakness that Galvantula would have, it also covers the Mudboy weakness as well. So to a certain extent, not to the extent that a Ferrothorn would, but yeah. So yeah, I would ask you what you think it pairs well with, but I think it pairs well with Galvantula. Any thoughts?
I'm not huge on Galvantula, but yeah, you are right. It does pair extremely well with it. I was thinking of having a Ferrothorn in there anyway, just because I see the grasses being quite good in this, because I think people are going to get over the ghost thing quite quickly. And you'll see a lot of Marowak still, because people will want that fire to kill Galvantula, which will kill off the Galvantulas, so you'll see less and less of them. But I think Ferrothorn does better against Marowak than Galvantula, so I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure it does.
Fair enough.
So that's the way I was thinking at the moment. But again, it's 24 hours old, Matt.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, that's it. Who knows?
Played 3 games against a guy who likes spice, you know. So.
That's 3 more games than I've played. I'll give you that. But yeah, Dewgong. So I know you touched on Sableye being potentially a scarce pick because people might not have spent the money on it or the Stardust on it. Do you see Dewgong having similar issues because of the double legacy TMs?
Certainly the double legacy, yes. Well, no, sorry, mine's a triple legacy because I've got Aquajet as well. Just to throw that out
just
there.
Flex. Why not? Why not?
Why not? You know, why not? Why not? This is one of them. You know, what are you going to spend your elite TMs on? Stone Edge on your Blaziken? Please, you never get in there.
I feel like Twiggy will find something to spend an elite TM on this cup. We'll get to that another day, perhaps. But yeah, I think you're right, though, aren't you? I think there's not really a huge deal else that benefits from an elite TM more than Dewgong does. So.
And Icy Wind's so good.
It's such.
It's such a good move. The first time, I remember me and Adelian going around trying to find people to trade with us, Icy Wind Dewgongs, to which I never managed to. He did, and then he lost it. I didn't delete it. Oh yeah, it just disappeared from your Pokédex, mate, because that happens.
Yeah.
So I did plump for the TMs, but it did have Aquajet on it already, which I was quite fortunate with. That I'd got a trade from somebody who, when I was asking around for legacy ones, he was like, "Oh, I've got this one with Aquajet." So I was like, "I'll take it." And yeah, I think a lot of people will have it, to be honest. I think it'll have been on the top of the list, along with the things like people putting Shadow Ball on Mewtwo's and things like that. I think the PvPers were looking at going, "Oh, I could get that Stone Edge on my Blaziken," or "Oh, Icy Wind," or "Oh, have I got a Sea King? Could make that triple legacy as well." And
there's a point. So I already had an existing double legacy Sea King, so maybe that's one to look at, because that gets Icy Wind as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's not stabbed, so it misses out the same. It misses out, but.
Yeah, just excited you though. So.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. I'd genuinely forgotten about that. Like it's yeah.
So I think a lot of the PvPers out there will have, and I suppose it's a similar sort as Sableye. A lot of the PvPers will have already been targeting that return.
Yeah.
Sableye. So I know most people, when I get a lucky trade with them, they're like, "Oh, have you got a return Sableye?" And it seems to be a recurring question. So
fair. Any final thoughts on Dewgong, guys?
The amount of time it's been banned from Silph Cups, I just think it's in now. I think people use it just for that fact, because I've been annoyed that it's been banned from most of the tournaments I've been in. Just to get a chance to use it, I think it's going to go in the team just because.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Can't argue with that sort of thought process. At the end of the day, it's a laugh in it. You got to use ones that spark joy, haven't you? So yeah, fair play.
Well, what would Mariquan say? You know, it's Got to spark joy.
It's more what would Trudy say, in my opinion. But yeah. Oh dear. Okay, Liam, what about Crustle then?
Well, it looks quite good, doesn't it? Its main pull for me was having SmackDown. And obviously, there's a fair few things in the top meta, as it were, that doesn't really want to take any sort of rock damage. So I mean, straight away the Garvantula, which is obviously at the top, you're just going to shred through. Marowak, who's been mentioned a couple of times, is just not going to appreciate a SmackDown, and it's going to need shields, but it will take shields off the opponent. You know, nothing really going to want to take a rock slide, and you've got a good bait move there in X-Scissor. If you look at it against the top 20-25 mons, it's beating most of them in the one shield. You know, you're picking up Pelipper, you just have to take one Weather Ball, shield the next, and you can just farm it straight down. It's a lovely matchup. But as long as you're happy to take one Weather Ball, which will do about 70% to you, but obviously, and then you just come out the other side with a good chunk of energy. Obviously, Drifloon's not going to want to see it. You're beating Sableye in the ones as well, so that it beats a lot of the top meta. And obviously, we said it's going to be so sparse, so wide, but you're beating a good chunk. It's a very, very good sort of, I don't like using the word, but generalist that nothing's going to really want to see. Obviously, you've got to accept being absolutely destroyed by the waters. There's not a water type in here. Obviously, the flying waters you can take on. You'll take on the ice waters, but any water, mud, water pure, you're going to get ruined by. But pretty much the waters are the only things that can really beat it in the ones. And I think Cradilly has a good matchup against it, but I'm not too sure how many of them we're going to see. The grasses you are going to struggle a little bit against, but obviously you've got the X-Scissor. It's not going to really want to see a Venusaur, but at the same time, they're not really going to be doing super effective damage to you, so the matchup's still a bit interesting. You can still swing it either way. Obviously, I've not gone too deep into how many fast moves you can swing or this, that, and the other, but if you meet a grass, you're going to get a shield out of them. Or if you meet something that's not going to want to take SmackDown, you're going to shred through it. And I think with teams, we're going to see Marowaks, we're going to see Garvantulas. You've got Crustal on your sticks, and you just slot it in that slot. If you win the lead matchup, they bring in the Garvantula, they bring in the Marowak. Again, like I said, I like my Drifloon last time. Just have a Crustal there, bring it in, shred through. They're probably one of their most, favorite of their six, because it can take down. Yeah, I've not really much else to say. It just looks very, very good.
Yeah, I think rock type damage is really adaptable, isn't it? Like in terms of what it's super effective against, and we've seen that in Sunrise Cup, haven't we? Like with G-Fisk and with it hitting bug, fire and ice super effective. You've got options to aim at here. No thoughts of a Fury Cutter. You're more straight SmackDown all the way. Yeah.
I do really like SmackDown. Fury Cutter has its plays, but I just think having that big fast move damage, I think
it does really, so much really as well.
Good. Yeah.
The way
as soon as I saw that Pelipper matchup, because I wanted to dig into it, it's lovely. Mantine, just don't shield the first move, even if it's an ice beam.
No one's bringing Mantine to this, but we're all sick of it, right? Let's just.
Oh yeah, as soon as
I played a Mantine today.
It's the thing with Mantine is it's just there, isn't it? As soon as it's there, someone's going to bring it. So, but it's obviously low down on the rankings because of how dreadful it is against the waters. There aren't many waters in the top rankings, but just because it loses to every one of them, it drops down the list. So that may put people off it because it's not up there in the top 20. I think it's what was it, 37?
34 I've got written down.
34. Yeah.
But that's solid. I think.
Yeah.
given how many mons are in this cup, and as Stuart said right at the beginning, I think something like a good 80, 90 mons could be useful here. So I wouldn't let that put people off at all.
I think you're really onto something with Crustal. I think there's a lot of that rock fast move damage from Smackdown is going to do a lot to. I think Galvantula, AWAT, as you said, a lot of the top mods, all the bug types as well. That's really going to add up. So I really think you're on some music, Crustal. It's going to be tough to stop, especially if it gets energy rolling as well. Then you can fire off your X's as against your grasses, your rock slides. Not much is going to want to take rock slides. So yeah, it's a good pick.
And I think Smackdown as well. People don't like. It's a slow charging move, sure, but it's not as slow as people think it is. And certainly when I was using Rhyperior in Catacomb Cup, I had on the occasions where I would get to a back-to-back Surf or a back-to-back Superpower or Rock Wrecker, and they were few and far between, but people weren't, they wouldn't expect it. Like, it's not like, because of how much damage it does, people expect it to charge as slowly as something like Charm or Razor Leaf, but in actual fact, it's not that bad. It's closer to something like Water Gun, I think, or Dragon Breath in terms of energy gain. So.
I didn't think it was as close as Dragon Breath, but
I think Dragon Breath's 3 energy per turn, I think, and I think Smackdown's 2.5. So it's not. Yeah. I think so. I think Smackdown's 4 damage, 2.5 energy per turn. I think
the beauty with Smackdown is, as you said, though, it's such a heavy hitting move, and again, similar like with what I was saying about Dewgong, it's going to be so open. People are going to have these mons that, yeah, you're going to throw it in there, it's going to kill their mon. And then they're going to throw in something that's going to kill yours. Crustal, if you played it against me, I'm going to throw in a Swampert and it's going to murder you in well, not seconds, but it's going to finish you off quite quickly. I think it's just going to be one of them types of cups. I think having something that absolutely destroys an AWOC and destroys it without throwing a charge move as well. If somebody switches in their AWOC and you then switch in your Crustal, you're having them all the way. I'm not sure how much of a Shadow Ball it can take, but I imagine it can, hold it a certain amount, so you could just throw at it and not. Yeah, it's a very good pick, Liam. To be honest, mate, I think so.
Yeah, sounds like it needs to be paired with the grass type. That could be a very good combo.
Ferrothorn and Crustal look very, very good together.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bit of a counter weakness there, but there's so much. Well, first, there aren't many counter mons here, and there's a lot of resistances here as well. Like, you've got things like Galvantula, which resist counter, things like Golbat, which resist counter, bugs and poisons inherent in they all inherently sort of resist counter. There's the odd flying type knocking about like Pelipper, which looks good. Yeah, I'd normally being weak, having a double weakness to counter is. Or 2 weaknesses to counters on things that are both going to be core things that you want to use a lot is something I'm concerned about, and it was something I was terrified of in Sunrise Cup. But once I just accepted that and got over it, I was like, okay, fine, just accept it, use the mods for what they are.
How many counter users is there? I can only think of one, to be honest.
Toxic Breloom.
Escavalier.
Yeah, Escavalier. That was the one I was thinking of. I'd forgotten about Breloom because, Breloom, and I just think it's trash. So
yeah, fair enough. yeah, I don't think there's any. I couldn't name any more. There aren't any water types or ghosts that get it. So, bug, poison, grass, no poison types get it. Yeah, I think there's Breloom, Toxicroak, and Escavalier. So, yeah.
I think out of them, you may see a couple of Toxies and a few Escavaliers. I don't think you're going to see any Brelooms at all.
Oh god, no.
Some go with Breloom.
Well, yeah. I guess it's a nice thing to have as a sort of water resistance, isn't it? But
don't lie, Matt. Don't lie. No? You're just making it up now. No one believes you. No one believes you, to be honest.
Fine. I don't believe myself either, to be honest. I was really clutching at straws there.
Hats off for trying, honestly. Hats off for trying. You had me for about half a second, but after that.
Oh, God.
But yeah, Crustal does hit so many things very well. I do think you're going to see I do think you're going to see Golbat quite a bit. I think
I'm going to run Golbat. I'm just going to put it out there. Anytime Golbat's allowed, I'm all aboard Golbat. I'm going to run Return, Shadow Ball, Shadow Golbat, Air Cutter even. Like, Golbat is always good. Like, I love running a Golbat. I'd be very surprised if I didn't have it.
And yeah, Liam's just going to throw rocks at you for fun then. You know, he's just going to literally
all
just sit there, just going like that, rock.
I mean, going back to my Drifloon point, I think where I really enjoyed Sunrise was having that annoying Pokemon that you just do not want to pick against. And certainly having Crustal in there is going to make a lot of people second guess what they bring. And I think that could be key. You know, if people have set lines of 3 in their head, you throw something in there that, oh god, that could actually ruin 2 of my mons if I line it up wrong. It's I think it will be my annoying one for the month.
I think Crustle, it's not something that immediately jumped out to me, to be honest. But not something that I'd want to use. But I think what it does do, in my mind, is I think, and you touched on it with Therathorn, and we talked about Cradily earlier as well. Is I think it stops people dicking about with silly grass types, or if you're going to bring a grass type, I think you've got to be beating Crustle with it. I think things like I say silly grass types. Jumpluff's not a silly grass type by any means, but
might be in this cup though.
Yeah, exactly. But
I think we'll see Jumpluff for sure.
Yeah, and things like the one that has fire weather ball. What's it called? Cherrim. That's the one. That'll probably struggle a bit versus Crustle. Venusaur and Meganium always have to play, don't they? So yeah, I think what it does do as well is I think just the pure presence of Crustle means that you can almost write off mons like Cherrim and Jumpluff as things you'll see lots and lots of, which I appreciate for sure, because it makes team building easier. So yeah, any final thoughts on Crustle? No? Okay.
No. It's a good, steady mon. I think we're all in agreement that it's actually one to think about. It does have its coverages, but similarly, it has massive, massive flaws. Yeah. And you line it up against the wrong thing, you know, someone goes in with a Razor Leaf Shiftry, and which happens.
Yes,
not a lot, but it could happen.
The Shiftry takes an X-scissor though. You never know.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Well, speaking of mons that have massive, massive flaws, I'm going to go all the way down to 112 in the rankings and talk about Bibarel. Now, again, I mentioned at the beginning I don't really have any idea where to start with this, because it's such a broad net here. So I just thought, what's happened before when ghost types have been eligible is that I think Sinister Cup's a good example. You had a nice sort of rock, paper, scissors between Psychic, Steel and Fighting, and Ghost kind of did everything against, had a back and forth with them all, and so Ghosts became really popular. We saw triple Ghost lines. It was almost a lot towards the end. Most teams had 3 Ghosts on them, to the point where people were bringing Girafarig as the only thing in the meta that resisted Ghost, and it's just ridiculous. I thought it was ridiculous. Fair play to anyone out there who ran it well. Because I don't think
anyone ran it well. I only ran against one. I know one person who ran a Girafarig, and yeah, he didn't run it particularly well. But Adelion's not really that good, so.
I battled a Girafarig in Sinister. It was a nightmare. I didn't know what to do against it.
How many ghosts did you have on your team?
Yeah, I think I had 3 ghost fights.
There you go. Yeah. So what I'm saying is maybe not straight away, but maybe at some point towards the back end of the meta, and we might see Awak, Frostlass, and Sableye on the same team, or 2 of the 3, and we might see Mudboys. And if we're saying Swampert seems to be the big one here, Swampert's going to have to bait to beat Bibarel, and that's if it's bringing Earthquake anyway. Some of them also have Sludge Wave. Cradily is going to be one of the bigger grass types as well, I think. If Cradily chooses not to shield your first move and you choose to spend a shield extra, you will beat Cradily at a shield, if you spend the shield extra. But you come out with a lot of health. Bibarel's got a lot of HP, and you're able to farm it down because of Water Gun. And mons like that, where you can choose whether you want to keep switch advantage against things that perhaps you probably shouldn't be able to based on typing alone. I think they always have that little bit of sort of hidden versatility, which is quite nice. And yeah, if you face a Ferrothorn instead of a Cradily, then yeah, that's gone. But you might have something else that deals with Ferrothorn a bit differently. So something like Golbat, for example, deals with Ferrothorn a lot better than it deals with Cradily. So yeah, a potential partner there. And I just think there's we always talk about Dragon Breath being like an oppressive move. Because of how fast, well, it feels like it feels like you're losing damage quickly and health quickly, which you are. But Water Gun's the same, and Surf's a good move. Surf's until Hydro Cannon came along and just like shattered
Still got to switch Surf Swampert for Ultra. It's a decent move.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of those water types as well, and there's not many of these that have a stab neutral move against other waters. So like, Lapras is always something I've liked anyway, but then they gave it Skull Bash, and now it's just like amazing. Like that's it's a big neutral move against other waters. And we there was it Ferocious when Bibarel first was quite good, and people were trying to get Last Resort Vaporeons for that similar thing, that neutral move against other waters. I just think it's got a lot of, like, outside of the grasses and counter users, it's got a lot of versatility. And like I say, against possibly 40% of the grasses we'll see. I mean, it might be a bold statement to say that maybe 40% of grasses we'll see are going to be Cradily. I don't know. But I think it'll be approaching that maybe. I think it's a lot of play. And not only does it have that status as a generalist, but it's also got, as sort of Twiggy was saying, with the Drifblim and Vigoroth, it's also got that capability of absolutely walling like a lot of things here into next week. Like Frostlass, we saw how much of a problem Frostlass was in Sorcerer's Cup, where Azumarill was probably the best counter, and even that was taking like 45% from Shadow Balls or whatever. Like, what's Frostlass doing to Bibarel? What's AWAC doing to Bibarel? I mean, Sableye's a bit different because it's got foul play, but I imagine Bibarel beats Sableye comfortably.
Yeah, it beats. Yeah.
So yeah, I just think, I mean, yeah, grass types are going to be the grass types that are there are going to be good. Galvantula, if it's going to be prevalent, it's going to be good. Toxicroak is, counter's always good. So don't get me wrong, it's weak to plenty of stuff, and Razor Leaf as well. People sometimes, there'll always be someone bringing Razor Leaf, but because of again the range of mons that are available, I feel like those sort of 4 key weaknesses, or those 4 weaknesses I just mentioned at least, it's not like we'll see all 4 of them on a team. I think, well, you might do. I think Bibarel's one of those mons where there'll be some teams where it's absolutely useless, and there'll be some teams where it beats 5 of your opponent's 6. And I absolutely love those mons, because against the good teams, it's devastating, and against the bad teams, you just don't bring it. So, yeah. What do you guys think?
But I think most of us, because of Ferocious, have a Bibarel, and quite like it. Really, it is one of them underrated mons, and because it's an angry beaver, people kind of disregard it completely. They don't, they think it looks dumb and it's a bit crap and nobody really wants it. But having used it in a tournament and really appreciating how much a Hyperfang can hurt, it's really quite good. And as you said, powers up quite quickly. It doesn't take long to be able to get there and then potentially hit out a Surf as a bait. So it does have legs. I do genuinely think it does have legs. And again, I think AWAC's going to be big. I think even though we all spoke about AWAC's shortcomings, we've all named something that can beat it. And I still think it's going to feature on 90% of the teams that we're going to see. So having things that can comfortably beat AWAC it's going to be massive. So I think it's it's quite a sly, smart pick, to be honest, Matt. Yeah.
And it's also as well with the AWAC matchup particularly. I assume you can just straight water gun that down without bothering with the shield. Like, and do you know what? Even if you pass 100 energy, fine. Like, I'll come out with 100 energy still. You know, like. What about you guys, Stuart, Liam? What do you think?
I definitely think Bibarel's better than its ranking, but I know it's also got that ghost resistance, but there's a lot. Why would you choose it over so many other water types in the meta? There's a lot of competition for water types out there, and I don't think we'll see as many ghost types as you might think. I think it's possible we might get double ghost. I'd be very surprised if we see triple ghosts, to be honest. And
no, completely, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can make a case for it, but there's going to be you need balance at the end of the day. I think there's going to be probably a grass, probably a Galvantula that beats a barrel on most teams. So I think it's just going to be very difficult to get it in the right match. And those things that beat barrel, they beat it very easily. Yeah. So I think it can be tough to find. I think you might be better off finding a water type which can do more than one thing. I know it's got the sort of normal damage, but I think we need a water type which does a bit more, personally. But, yeah.
No, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think something like the issue of the grass type one is of the grass types is certainly a valid one, and I think that's what makes things like Dewgong and Lapras and Cloyster sort of different, in that they're the water types, but it's a less polarizing sort of offensive type in ice.
Even something like Empoleon, I think, could be interesting because that's a water type which can hit grass as hard. So I think you want water types which can sort of deal damage back rather than the ones which just lose.
Good point, actually. Good point.
Worry about Empoleon just by oversteal in yourself in this cup again. Going back to the AWACs and stuff like that, I know an Empoleon can take down an AWAC, but it's going to hurt you on the way down. So, especially if you're going to have like a Ferrothorn or something. I don't know. Maybe that's just me thinking that you've got to go over one side. That's all.
I don't know. Liam, can you see yourself investing in a Bibarel?
I just had a look. I started in Forest. What was Bibarel doing back then? Come on. It only cost me about 150,000 Stardust. It's fine. Why would I get Sableye when I can get Bibarel? No, all this episode has made me do now is worry about how this cup could become rock paper scissors so easily.
No, there's so much out there. Stuff like Cradily, Lapras, Sableye. There's so much out there. Galvantula. There's so much. I reckon you could pick a team of 6 safes, which is definitely. I'm sure it'd be manageable. Oh,
it's just every mon's got to have a job. I think that's a big thing that I think I've noticed from this today. Every single one has to do something because I think, like you said, there are a few good safe switches, but there are always things that will just run through you in this meta. But I think, like you said, in Sunrise, if you had a Vigoroth, you could still pump lots of damage into it, but there's certain things that do wall hard. But tomorrow I'll have a different view because I'll have a look at it better. But
fair.
It's the first meta that I've seen that I'm really looking forward to, though.
Can we just get that on record? Because I was going to say, every meta that we go to, you're like, I'm not going to like this.
That's
true. I'm not going to like
it.
It took me entering three tournaments this month till I worked it out, so I've got to work this one out quickly.
Well, I'm sure there'll be plenty of practice cups going around, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think Marsh is going to be a lot of fun. Just you can build anything. There's so many good ones. I think we're going to see so much variety, which I think is going to be really refreshing.
Absolutely. I just wish they'd picked a better, like a more, like fun and exciting like background picture for the announcement posts, because it's going to look dead dull in the background of these videos. But other than that, if that's the thing I've got to complain about most about this cup, I think so. I think
I
they've done
like
a good job.
I like the fact that you're thinking Matt Brewer branding first. Sod the content of the tournament. I just want a flashy logo. I want a crowd on each of the mons as well. So, just like Sunrise.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean,
Go on.
Go. I was going to say I've not seen why the cup so far this season's been named the way it has. I don't know why it was called Sunrise, and I'm not too sure why this one's called Marsh. I know there's water and there's grass, but what Ghost's got to do with marshes?
Marshes are usually sort of like dank places, a bit dark and grim, and maybe that's
a lot of fog.
But ghosts don't like mud. So what are they doing in the marshes?
What do you mean ghosts don't like mud? What?
Ghost is weak to mud.
Yeah, Gengar's weak to mud. Yeah. Well, I know, Mac. Yeah. The important ones are. Yeah.
Drifloon can fly. It's fine.
Yeah, Drifloon and Frostless have a good time. Yeah. Right. Anyway, let's leave it there before this goes completely off the rails. Thanks for joining. I'm so excited about this cup. It's going to be great. Can't wait to see what you guys will come up with for practice teams. So yeah, catch you all later.
Right,
Catch you later, guys. Thanks for having us, Matt.
Yeah, thanks again.
No worries. See you in a bit.